If you enjoy what we do here, you should definitely check out youtube.com/@MWPNewsGaming. It's our new YouTube channel where we do basically talking like this while also playing video games, old games, older games. We'd like to do new games, but those cost money. So old games, older games, retro games, forgotten games, all kinds of games. While I talk about it, get frustrated, all that kind of cool stuff. We talk about, movies, TV shows, anything like that. YouTube.com/@MWPNewsGaming. Please be sure you subscribe. That'll help us out a lot. And if you feel like we're doing a good job, please donate. co-fi.com/MWPnews. Thank you and enjoy this episode. Good evening and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on this Friday, June 13th. And it's a big week for movies. Probably one of the bigger weekends in terms of number of kind of big releases coming out. Because this weekend we already saw How to Train Your Dragon. We did that on Wednesday. And then also this week is Life of Chuck on top of Materialists. Life of Chuck being Mike Flanagan's new Stephen King adaptation. That's supposed to be really good as well. And then Materialists, which is Celine Song's new movie, coming off of the acclaim from Past Lives, which, as you may recall, was my movie of the year for 2024? No, 2023. It was my movie of the year. I love that movie. That movie's fantastic. And this is another one like it. And this is clearly the movie to beat for 2025. This is clearly the best movie to date in 2025. If we get to the mid-year, which me and Peter always do the mid-year top 5, if we get to that and another movie manages to unseat this, I will be very surprised. Because I think that this is hands down, on a technical level, narratively, performance-wise, this is the best movie that I've seen so far this year on just about every level. Chris Evans as an actor, I've always appreciated him as Captain America, and I think he did a great job there. But kind of since then, I think his strongest performance has been Knives Out. This movie solidifies him as a serious actor. We didn't need that for Robert Downey Jr. coming out of his time, his stint with Marvel, because we already knew he was a serious actor before he did that. I mean, he had his Oscar nomination for Chaplin. He was in Natural Born Killers. He's a fantastic actor. We knew that going into it. Chris Evans hasn't really had that chance because he was in some comedies. He was in Fantastic Four, and then he was Captain America for 10 years, and now here we are coming out, and it's look, they keep putting him in action movies, and that's fine. He's got to make his money from Apple TV for Ghosted. He's got to make his money from Amazon for Red One. He's got to he's got to make his money elsewhere. He was in Gifted, that movie, but that kind of fell flat. This is the movie that shows that he has strong acting chops. And much like Robert Downey Jr. got his Best Supporting Actor win 2 years ago in Oppenheimer for the very end of that movie, that last sequence with Alden Ehrenreich, that was the thing that sealed him winning that Oscar. There's a chance that Chris Evans gets nominated because of the scene, not the last scene, it's kind of the climax scene of the movie where it's him and Dakota Johnson, who I've never really cared for as an actress, because I saw her in Cha Cha Real Smooth, and that was something that really jived with me, and then Madam Web was Madam Web, but I've always thought that her voice and her mannerisms don't really lend itself to a good amount of characters. I think that the way she carries herself works very well in this movie, but I think that that scene of the two of them at the end, with them kind of laying out the relationship and why she's a terrible person and why this relationship, shouldn't work and all of that. that scene works so well, and it is carried by Chris Evans. Like, it is Chris Evans. It's the Chris Evans show in that scene, and it's just, he does such a great job of. And I'm not discounting her. I think she does great too, but that scene is carried by him. He like, you feel for him in that moment. You feel for him being this person who's like, look, I am, I am not someone who, okay, he's going down there. No, what's it called? There was cops that were moving out of the way behind me. I am never going to be the person who can give you all the things you want. I'm never the person who can, who will check every box for you. But just, I promise I will love you. Like, everything about that just nails what this movie is about. And it's about and granted, I think that part of it is a little bit lost at the fact that it's Chris Evans, and like, even if he isn't bulked out to the way he was when he was playing Captain America, he's still like one of the most attractive men on the planet. So I think that, like, it being like, I may not be, he still lives in this apartment where he has a bunch of roommates. It's very much Tick, Tick, Boom. The same kind of living situation that Andrew Garfield has in Tick, Tick, Boom, where it's like he's an aspiring actor and he's working these shifts, and he's 37 years old and he's living or 39 years old, and he's living in this apartment. He's got all these roommates, and he's like, look, this is not going to be the life that, you want or anything like that, but I promise that I do now and always will love you, and that, and I will not let that, take that for granted in the way that I have in the past. And it's just this great moment at the end of the movie that just kind of nails that character. And that's not discounting Pedro Pascal, because Pedro Pascal is also great in this movie. I think he has less to do. And I think it's just like, it's not that he has not enough to do, it's just that, like, he is meant to be the foil to Dakota Johnson's character in her journey. Because what this movie's about is, you have Dakota Johnson, who is a matchmaker. Her job is to find, people come to her, I want to get a date. She matches them up with other people. I'm not going to explain the concept. You understand what a matchmaker is. So that's her role. And she goes to a wedding for one of her clients, and that she has successfully matched. She's had a lot of success as a matchmaker. So she goes out to this wedding, and she meets the brother of the groom, which is the guy that she helped hook up. And they have, and that is Pedro Pascal. And he checks all her boxes, because she's looking at this in a very scientific way. Like, look, I want a guy who's this tall, I want him to have this career, this income, all of these things to that kind of just, check every box. And it's like, okay, great. Like, and here's this guy, and they call him the unicorn throughout the movie, whenever they're talking about him. It's like, because it is the guy who is like, he's out there, so he's going to ruin it for everyone else, like the whole matchmaking service. But it's like, that's the thing that, and she's dating him. And he is everything that she has wanted. And the only thing he can't give her is the love. And that is why that is so important. And it's like, you get to the end of this movie, and it's just like, there are points where it kind of slows down for me, and I think there are things that could have been improved in the middle. Like, there's like, I can't think of anything specific, but there are moments where I'm like, yeah, this is a little bit dragging a little bit. I don't really care as much about what's going on with the matchmaker side of things. It's really more just to show, and I get it, it's to show her mental state. It's to show, like, her deteriorating faith in the system. But, like, the idea that, like, we get to the, this whole movie is about these two people who, are soulmates meeting and reuniting and getting back together. It's a really great way for this movie to work. I think fundamentally this is hands down one of the, and then we get into one of my favorite scenes in this movie, which may be one of my favorite scenes in a movie in this year. We'll see. But, like, the scene where it's like, it's not the first date, but they've been on a few dates now, and it's Pedro Pascal and Dakota Johnson, and they're in this sushi restaurant, and the camera just hangs on the scene. as the two of them lay out what it is, and it's mirrored later on. This scene is, it just hangs on as she's like, well, what are we doing here? What do you want out of this relationship? Why are you doing this? Because you are settling. If you want me. Because here's the baggage I bring to this. Because she views this whole thing as a business transaction. What does each party bring to the marriage that, the other one will be able to be benefited from? And it's just this idea of the two of them, the two of them hashing this out over this dinner in this wide shot of this table, and in the background there's the people cooking, and it's just this long take. It's just this long take. And it's just so well handled, because it's just the two of them just talking in this wide shot for a good 5 minutes, just hashing out what is the central conflict of this character in this movie. And I think the way that they handle the whole relationship between her and, I think his name is John, Chris Evans' character, is so well done too, because it's we're reintroduced to him at the wedding, because he happens to be catering at the wedding that she's at, and we're reintroduced to him there, and we get to see him kind of come into his own, and then not come into his own, that's the wrong word, but kind of reintroduce him as a character. And we get reintroduced to them, they have a history, and we slowly get that, we get the flashback, and then it's he's kind of woven into the story in a way that it's he's there enough to make sure that the viewer remembers who he is and why he's important, but also to make sure that we still feel this relationship between them, and this connection that the two of them have extends far beyond what you would normally consider like two exes, or even exes who remain friends. And I think that's handled so well in this movie. I think Celine Song has a real gift when it comes to telling these stories of not unrequited love, because I think that's the wrong word for this one, but these slow burn relationships that take a long time for someone to get to where they should be with them, because that was the real strength of Past Lives, where it's the way that these two are both mourning the relationship that never was. By the time you get to the end of it, it's the two ships passing in the night. It's so well done the entire way through, and you feel for these two characters. And it's the same thing here. Even when you get to the relationship, and it's this realization that she has after seeing that he had the surgery to make his legs longer with Pedro Pascal, the moment that she had this conversation with him and goes I felt for you the same way I felt when I saw, before I saw the scars, and I do not love you. And it's this thing where it's the realization that that's a part of this for her is a big deal. And I think that whole scene is so important to that journey for this character. And then for her to leave there and then go right back to Chris Evans and be hey, so it's someone who doesn't know how to express that emotion. And I think that that's something that, again, works for this movie, because we don't really ever find out what it is. We know she had a troubled childhood. And that's one of the things that, when she's talking to Chris Evans early on, it's we're both poor, we both have been poor, and we remain poor, and we both, we both come from these troubled childhoods and troubled family life. That's all we need to know about it. We don't need to get the flashbacks. We don't need to get the explanation as to how it's messed up or anything like that. Just, it wasn't great. It wasn't an ideal situation, and, this is where we are now, and we have to just kind of deal with that. And that is exactly why this movie works, is it gives you exactly enough information that you need. You never feel like you're being told too much. You never feel like you're being put in a situation where you have way more information, or you don't feel shortchanged. At no point do you feel like, well, I wish I had this more well developed. No, everything is just exactly. It is the economy of storytelling that you will know exactly what you need to understand the movie and exactly what you need to enjoy it. And that is why this movie works as well as it does. This is 5 out of 5. This is going in the Masterpiece Collection on the website. This is a movie that I would be amazed if it does not make the top 5. I mean, if it doesn't top the top 5, I'll be amazed, because I think it's mathematically impossible based on how many movies I'm seeing between now and the end of the year that, it wouldn't make the top 5. But if we get to the end of the year and this movie is not the number one movie, it's gonna be we're looking at an all-time great year for movies. Like, when we look back at the 1950s and the classics that came out in the 1950s, and like the run of Best Picture winners from like 1951 to 1956, it's like these are some of the all-time great movies. If we get to the end of this year and this movie is not in the number one slot, or if it falls out of the top 5, then we are looking at an all-time great year for movies. And there are some movies that I look at these trailers and I'm like, fuck, that's gonna be good. Like, and I think it is just this is where I'm, these are the movies that I'm very interested in. Like that Margot Robbie, Colin Farrell movie, a Big Bold Beautiful Journey. Like, that trailer is the one that every time, I've seen it now 3 times, and every time I'm like, holy fuck, that's gonna be good. That looks fantastic, and I'm here for that the whole way through. And then the same thing kind of applies to, like, I don't think it's going to be on the same level. I mean, clearly not on the same level, but like that new movie with Aziz Ansari and Keanu Reeves, that looks really funny. And even like Naked Gun, like the way Naked Gun, that trailer hits every time I see it. It's the same trailer every time. And look, the bit with him in the costume as a little girl doesn't get me. The bit with him, looking at the camera and doing like Police Squad, the new version, that doesn't get me. And him standing there with the leg up on the with the leg up on the thing in the skirt with the panties, that doesn't get me either. What gets me every time is him kneeling in front of the picture of his father, who's Leslie Nielsen from the original. That gets me every time. And then like the line of everyone else doing that too, because everyone's doing the same thing, because they're all the kids of the original cast, except for the one who's the kid of OJ, and he just looks at the camera, shakes his head, and walks away. Every time that makes me laugh out loud. But like, looking at Materials, there's one thing I want to touch on, and I think that the movie does a great job, like, playing with the idea of, how high everyone's expectations are now. Like, this idea that, like, everyone needs all of their boxes checked, and they won't settle for most of their boxes checked. And that is something that I think is very interesting that this movie plays with. And it's something where it's like, the height issue, they go through these people where it's like the woman, like the one that made me laugh out loud was she's on one of these meetings where she's meeting with someone who's going to be one of her clients, and it's this woman it's a black woman. She's like, the person has to be a Republican. And it's like, will you accept a centrist, like, Democrat? No. Has to identify as conservative. Okay, well, they have to identify as conservative. Okay. They can't like cats. They must like dogs. Okay. And he's like, now, are you willing to, like, look outside the city? Because, like, it's going to be very hard to find a lesbian who doesn't like cats and is a Republican in New York City who's willing to be in a relationship with a closeted gay woman who has multiple kids. That's going to be tough to find within New York City. Are you okay with me looking on Long Island? And it's like, oh yeah, that's like, that made me laugh out loud. And it's like, no, like, it's just one of those things where it's like the entire movie is about people being unwavering in their expectations, and then it's like when we get to the end, like, there's this whole thing that throughout the movie that I think they weave in very well with this character Sophie, who's one of her clients who ends up getting sexually assaulted on a date. And that kind of weaving in with her crisis and what this is, like, that works so well with this that it's like, when we get, through to the end and we get Sophie where she is, it's like Sophie does settle. And she does find someone great by the end of the movie. It's like, yeah, she had a great date with this guy, and it's going very well, and it's like, that whole thing works so well for this, and it's like, now, I don't know if I like the lesson that it's like, settle or you'll get sexually assaulted in the bathroom on your first date. Like, I don't know if that's the moral of the story. That feels weird. But I think that it's one of those things where it's like, look, as this goes on, everyone expects more. Everyone expects more, and everyone expects instant gratification. And I think she got a great line about that, too, in the movie, where she goes, look, these are humans. You're not buying a car or a house where you can give me a wish list and I will construct you a thing that you're looking for exactly to the specifications that you're looking for. Because this woman gives her this paper of what she's looking for, and it's like 3 pages long. And it's like, and she's like, look, I can't, like, these are humans. We are in this place where, you have to accept that you will not be able to find this perfect person who's going to match all these people. And then he's also using a matchmaker service. Like, and it's one of those things where it's like, that moment works so well for this movie. Like, I really appreciate this movie very much so. But we'll wrap up there for today. The next movie will be next Wednesday. We'll be talking about Elio, the new Pixar movie. And then next week, we might be doing another one Friday. I don't know what else is coming out next week, but we might be doing another movie Friday. And then the week after that, F1 and Ironheart starts up. So we'll be back with TV shows on a weekly basis. But we'll wrap up there, and until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.